You are standing outside a KFC in a small Chinese city, watching 23 other applicants get hired for the exact same job you just applied for. You are the only one rejected. Out of 24 people in that room, the restaurant chose everyone except you. This isn't the first time this had happened. It's the 30th. 30 jobs, 30 rejections. Even the police force turned you away for being too short and too average looking. You have zero money, no connections, and nothing that makes you stand out. But in a few years, you're going to stand on a stage in New York and ring a bell that makes you one of the richest men in the world. But it started with a face nobody wanted to hire. Level 1. The humble beginning. Net worth, $0. You were born in Hangzhou, China, in 1964, into a family of traditional musicians and storytellers who barely make enough to make a living. You've always been living in tough financial conditions, and nobody around you has any reason to believe you're destined for anything remarkable. You struggle badly with math. You fail primary school twice, and you fail middle school 3 separate times. But there's one thing that seems to catch your interest: English. Understanding it feels like holding a key to a door nobody else in your neighborhood even knows exists. And since your family is unable to afford lessons, you wake up at dawn and ride your old, wrecked-up bike to a hotel near a lake where foreign tourists stay. And for 9 straight years, you offer them free tours of the city in exchange for nothing but conversation. Rain or shine, you show up. One of those tourists is so charmed by your persistence that he starts writing you letters and gives you a nickname, because your Chinese name is too hard for him to pronounce: Jack. By the time you're ready for university, the exam that should be your ticket out rejects you, not once, but twice. On your 3rd and final attempt, you manage to pass math with the lowest score possible, and finally get accepted into a teacher's college, not because of your brilliance, but because you refuse to stop trying. Even inside that college, you're not the star student everyone notices. You're the one who talks a little too much, argues with professors, and spends more time organizing the student union than studying for exams. But something about the way you speak loud, confident, endlessly persuasive, makes people remember you even when your grades add nothing to your personality. Level 2. The rejection. Net worth. Earning roughly $12 a month. After graduating, you apply to 30 different jobs across your hometown, hoping something, anything, will take a chance on you. Every single one says no. When KFC opens its first restaurant in your city, you and 23 other hopefuls line up for a position, and you're the only one they reject. You are devastated, because the only person rejected was you, but you still fight your feelings and try to join the police force next, and out of 5 applicants, you're again the one left standing outside. Even a job as a hotel waiter slips through your fingers, handed instead to your own cousin, whose test score was lower than yours. Most people would call that a pattern, and give up. You call it training. You start to think of rejection the way a boxer thinks of getting hit, something you have to get used to if you ever want to win. With no better option in sight, you take a job as an English teacher, earning the equivalent of about $12 a month, standing in front of a classroom instead of behind a business you don't have yet. Then, in 1995, a trip to America as a translator introduces you to something that changes the direction of your entire life: the internet. You search the word beer and find pages from Germany, America, and Japan, but almost nothing from China. In that empty search result, you see an opportunity. You come back to Hangzhou with one idea that followed you back: the internet. You try to explain to friends and family what a website even is, in a country where most people have never touched a computer, let alone the internet. Nobody in the room fully understands what you're describing, but you borrow money anyway, determined to build something out of a technology almost nobody around you has even seen with their own eyes. Level 3. The internet door. Net worth, few $1,000s borrowed. You come home and try to create China's first real internet company, a site called China Pages, meant to list Chinese businesses online for the rest of the world to see. You travel to Silicon Valley hoping investors will support the idea, but they call it useless and send you home with nothing. The company barely hangs on for a few years before falling apart entirely. Your first real business, and your first real collapse. The failure stings in a way rejection never quite did before. Because this time it isn't a stranger behind a counter turning you away. It's an idea you poured your own savings and your own name into. For a while, you wonder if the internet was ever the answer at all, or just another expensive lesson dressed up as opportunity. Instead of walking away from the internet completely, you gather 18 friends into your tiny apartment in Hangzhou in 1999, and you pitch them an even bigger and riskier idea: a website that connects small Chinese manufacturers directly with buyers around the world. You call it Alibaba. Everyone in that apartment pools together whatever savings they have, roughly $60,000 combined, and Alibaba is born within the walls of your small apartment. Level 4. 18 months. Word about your idea travels fast enough that you eventually convince a Goldman Sachs to invest $5 million, and shortly after SoftBank hands you $20 million more. For a moment, it feels like the world has finally said yes to you, and that you're no longer that rejected kid anymore, but everything you had planned and manifested came crashing down. Your dream gets crushed under its own excitement. Alibaba doesn't turn a single dollar of profit for its first 3 years. Investors who once believed in you start asking questions you don't have answers to, and internally, you tell your own team the company is now just 18 months away from complete bankruptcy. But instead of shutting the doors, you cut costs everywhere you can and try to keep the candle lit for as long as you can. Employees go months without being paid. Offices shrink, and more than one advisor quietly suggests it might be the time to let us go and return whatever money is left to your investors, but you refuse. You've been told to quit and find something else enough times in your life to know that the moment everyone expects you to fold is usually not the end of the story. It's just the chapter, right before things take a turn for the better. Level 5. The fight against a giant. Net worth. User by the millions. In 2003, the American company eBay enters China and dominates the market almost instantly, controlling the vast majority of the country's online auctions and sales. Nobody expects a small Hangzhou startup to put up a fight against a global giant with almost unlimited resources, but you launch a new platform called Taobao, and instead of charging sellers fees the way eBay does, you make it completely free, betting that user growth and company name today is worth more than revenue tomorrow. The bet works, and within 2 years, Taobao overtakes eBay's monopoly in a very unexpectedly limited amount of time, and as a result, the American company eventually retreats from the market entirely. Around the same time, you build a payment system called Alipay to solve a problem nobody else wanted to touch, getting strangers on the internet to trust each other with real money. That single tool ends up reshaping how an entire country pays for things, online and off. What started as a scrappy answer to a giant competitor slowly becomes something bigger than either company that came before it. Millions of small vendors, tailors, farmers, factory owners who never had a storefront in their lives suddenly have customers on the other side of the country, sometimes on the other side of the world, and every one of those transactions runs quietly through the systems you built out of desperation. Level 6. Ringing the bell. Net worth. Personal fortune crosses into the billions. By 2014, Alibaba has grown from that living room apartment into the backbone of Chinese e-commerce, and you take the company public on the New York Stock Exchange. It becomes the largest initial public offering in history at the time, raising roughly $25 billion in a single day. Alibaba's market value soars past $200 billion almost overnight, and the boy who was rejected from a KFC is now the richest man in China. You stand on that stage in New York, surrounded by cameras and applause, and it's almost impossible for you to take it all in. The boy who was once rejected and made fun of because of his looks and short height is now standing on top of one of the biggest stages in the world and getting applauded. Reporters who once wouldn't have given you half a minute are now fight for interviews, asking how a former English teacher built the largest e-commerce empire on the planet. You tell them the same thing you told that audience in Nairobi years later, that you had to learn to take a hit before you ever learned how to throw a punch of your own. Level 7. The empire and its storms. Net worth today. $30 billion. You stepped down as CEO in 2013 and later as chairman in 2019, choosing to hand the company to a new generation rather than cling to the title with your name attached to it. But success brings its own storms. After publicly criticizing China's financial regulators in a 2020 speech, Alibaba's affiliate company Ant Group has its blockbuster public offering abruptly halted, and you largely disappear from public view for over a year, your fortune shrinking by tens of billions of dollars almost overnight. Eventually, you re-emerge, quieter than before, mentoring the next wave of Alibaba's leadership from a distance instead of standing at the center of the spotlight. The company you built now serves hundreds of millions of customers across the globe, spanning e-commerce, cloud computing, logistics, and digital payments. An empire built on the exact opportunity you first spotted staring at an empty search result for the word beer. It's a strange kind of arc. A man who spent his 20s collecting rejection letters and slammed doors, then decades later, collecting headlines about the very same government he once challenged in public. Wealth for you was never a straight climb. It was a chart full of collapses and comebacks, not unlike the internet company you gambled everything on in the first place. None of it happened because you were the smartest person in any room you walked into. It happened because a boy who failed math, got rejected from a fried chicken counter, and taught English for $12 a month refused to let no be the last word anyone ever said to him. You never set out to become the richest man in China. You set out to build a door for small businesses that the rest of the world had never bothered opening. And somewhere between a hotel lobby full of foreign tourists and a stage in New York ringing a bell, that's exactly what happened. What's the lesson we can all gather from Jack's life? No matter how many hits life throws at you, no matter how many people reject you, no matter how many businesses you fail at, you just have to keep going, because even if there is a 1% chance of success, it will remain at 0% if you don't give it a shot. So, here's my question for you. What's the rejection you're carrying right now that might be quietly training you for something much bigger? Let me know in the comments. And for more stories of billionaires who started from nothing, make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon below. And if this story stuck with you, there's another rise waiting to be told.